Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, which is all about hiking, backpacking, and camping. And today I have a really fun backpacking DIY that you can do at home. It is backpacking cozy. So I have one here to rehydrate meals, and then I have one here for your coffee mug or your pot to keep your food and your drinks hot longer when you're backpacking. I love like super hot coffee, and so this little light fun DIY is so functional and it's really easy to make at home. So that's what we're gonna go over today in this video. Here is everything you're going to need. We have a car windshield reflector, some Gorilla Tape, scissors, a Sharpie, a ruler, and some Velcro. First up, we're gonna make this backpacking meal cozy here with the Velcro lid. You can easily take your backpacking meal, slide it right in there, and this stands up all on its own. So that's another nice little feature of the one that I'm going to teach you how to make today. So the first thing that we're going to do is measure out the size of this reflector material that we need for our cozy. To do this, I'm gonna use one of my homemade backpacking meals as a guide here because this is typically the size of the meals that I take into the backcountry, and so it's a perfect guide for me. But I would say grab whatever backpacking meal that you use or eat most often and make your size around that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is actually measure out the length that I need for this project. So I'm gonna rotate myself here. Now, I like this little edge here with the fabric, so I'm gonna use that as my top flap for this project. So that's where I'm gonna start, and then I have all this room to work with. And grab your ruler and your Sharpie. At the top flap, I like to have about 2 or 3 inches up at the top here. So you can kind of measure that out if you want. So roughly 2 is right about here. And just fold that over. And get yourself a nice fold here. So that's gonna be our top flap. So when our meal is in there, we'll just fold this down, and it will have some Velcro here, and it will keep our pack closed. So we have that room accounted for. Now you can use a ruler, or you can just kind of guesstimate this. It doesn't have to be exact, but I'd say my meal here is about 9.5 inches or so. So I have that covered for the back. And then we also need to account for material that's gonna go over the top of it like this. I need at least double that height. For me, I'm just gonna kind of mark off, okay, this is sort of the bottom of my bag right here. It's about 9.5 inches. And then I'm just gonna measure another 9.5 inches down. Mark that off. Okay, so this point right here is basically going to cover the top half of the bag. I wanna add on a few extra inches here just to have a little wiggle room as I start taping everything together, and also to crimp the middle part so that it will stand up by itself. So I'm actually gonna add 1, 2, 3 extra inches onto that and just mark that right here. This is kind of like my main cut point for the height of this cozy. The last thing that we need to figure out is the width, and that's pretty easy. I would say give yourself about 1/2 inch extra on each side. So I'm gonna slide this over just a little bit just to maximize all of this material. So let's say I want like 1/2 inch on this side. So mark that off. And then another 1/2 inch on this side. And I'll mark that off. Now I have my width set and my length set. I'm gonna cut out that rectangle right now, and then we'll start taping it up. To make the cutting really easy, you can draw a line with your ruler. So here is my outer edge of the width, and I'm just gonna use my ruler here and use these little circles as a guide to draw a hopefully straight line through all of these circles. Okay, and then I'm gonna connect my bottom point. And then my width here. All the way up. And I'm just going to cut that out. And there's enough material in one car windshield for about 4 backpacking meal cozies and then a few cup cozies as well. So there's a lot of material here to work with. So if you want to make like different sizes for different size meals that you typically buy, then you can pick which size you need per trip. And that's also a great idea. So here is my rectangle. And now is a good time to kind of check and just make sure that things look good. So again, I have my flap that's gonna come down here, and then we'll do some crimping or some, I don't know what it's called, like a little accordion down there, and then should have plenty of material to work with to fold it over. Grab your marker again and make sure that your food is sitting below this top fold here. And you're just gonna mark off the bottom. Grab your ruler and you can set that aside. Now from your marked off center point, draw a line at 1 inch out. So moving down and then another inch. So you should have 3 total lines. The first one here marking the bottom of your bag, and then 1 inch and then 2 inches from that first line. Fold at the first line. So this is kind of tricky to get the first fold in. That. I like to use the base of my hand and just really press it down, and you kind of get a really good fold after that. All right, see, so it will stay just like that. So I have a pretty good fold here, and you can use the little circles again as a guide. Open this back up. And now I want to make another fold at this second line that we drew. So now we're ready to do the accordion fold here. Folding at the second line, the middle line, bring it in. So we're basically just scrunching it in. So after you have that little fold, that's gonna be the bottom of your bag. This bottom folds over, keeping that accordion shape. You can see there's a little fold. So at this point, I like to, again, just use a little bit of pressure from the base of my hand and slide it across to really create that fold that will stay shut. We're ready for the tape. Grab your Gorilla Tape, and you can use duct tape if that's all you have. Gorilla Tape is just, it's stronger and it does better at higher temperatures, and so that's kind of why I'm using it here. But duct tape should work just fine. It's just your cozy might not last quite as long as one made with Gorilla Tape. I'm just gonna take off a couple little pieces. Got one piece here, and I'm just gonna do another one and set it on the edge of my table, so I'm ready to use it. I want to use this tape to just crimp these edges shut so that it stops popping open. So I'm just gonna take this, fold it right over, make sure that it's lined up pretty straight, and fold it over nice and tight, just like that. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the other side here, with the other piece of tape that I have. Just fold it right over. So now we don't have to worry about that opening up, and we have this little space on the bottom here. I can see here that I did not do a great job with my cutting. So I'm just going to actually trim that up and make it look a little bit nicer. Same thing with this edge. It looks like we have a little extra room on the top, which is good because that's kind of what we planned for, just to have a little wiggle room in case we mess something up. So I'm gonna grab my meal template again and see, okay, you know, this is gonna be ripped off when I rehydrate the meal. So I can probably cut at least like another inch or so off of this top section. So I'm gonna do that as well. The next step is to tape up the sides. Grab my Gorilla Tape again. I want to get a piece that goes up to this top flap here. So I'm gonna just measure that out best I can. That looks good. And then put half of it on the front, seal that, and flip it over. That's a little crooked. You know, you can just unstick and restick this. It's really easy to work with. There we go. And then fold this over, making sure these edges are lined up, and then fold it over like that. And then I'll repeat the same thing with this other side. This one was a little bit short on the tape, so I'm gonna go and just tape that little edge right there. The last step is to add the Velcro to keep this shut once the meal is in there. If you don't wanna do the Velcro, you can just be done here and just tuck, this flap under maybe when you're going to rehydrate it. But I really like the Velcro, so we'll do that next. What I like to do is actually bring the sides together before I cut it and before I stick it on here. That way they line up perfectly. So I'm just gonna put these together like this. And you don't need much Velcro. You can do the whole thing if you want, but that's not really necessary. I'm actually just gonna do 2 little pieces here. I'm gonna cut off size this big, and then 1 more of the same size, roughly. And this Velcro it has the sticky stuff on either side. All right, so peel that off, stick it up here on this flap, kind of right where you want it. Okay, and then we'll stick this one up here, nice and even. Last step is just to peel this other side off and then fold it over and press down with the palm of your hand. And then the next time you open it, there you go. And then your meal will stay shut as it's reheating. Let's, for those of you who are curious, see how much this one weighs. 1.5 ounces. And this one, store-bought one, is 1.4. The next one that I'm gonna show you how to make is a little cozy for a cup or a pot. You're gonna need your coffee cup here, which we're gonna use as a guide, and then a scrap piece of the car shield that is high enough to work with your cup. And this same thing would work with a pot as well. So it's nice because you can use up these other pieces that probably would just be thrown away. And my first step is I'm actually just gonna cut this outer edge off, so we don't need the fabric. And cut off this edge where it starts to curl or curve. And just take your cup and roll it around so we can get a rough idea for how long we need this. And you want it to overlap just a little bit. So I have all this extra here. I'm gonna just cut that off. Okay, we're gonna use this, so don't throw that away. Now the next thing I wanna do is make sure that the height is correct. So I'm just gonna slide this to the bottom of my cup and then roll it around. And I can see that I have quite a bit of overhang here. So I'm just gonna take my scissors and just sort of cut around the cup. So at this point, we should have something that fits both the circumference and also the height of the cup. So with this extra piece, we're gonna trace around the upper edge of the cup. So we have a circle here that we're gonna cut out, but you wanna cut out just a little bit bigger than this circle. So use a circle as a guide and just cut a little bit bigger than it, about 1/4 centimeter bigger. So not much, but just enough. So we have our circle here, which is going to be the bottom of our cup, and then we have the outside here, and the last thing to do is just to connect them both. So grab a big piece of Gorilla Tape, place it down on the table, maybe, there we go. And then place this about halfway onto the piece of tape in a nice straight line. Press that down. Okay, so now we have half of it taped. You're gonna take your little circle and then press it up to this bottom edge here of this side piece, and then roll it around. And so the reason we cut the circle just a tiny bit bigger than the circle we drew is to account for a little bit of the edge being taken up here. So we're continuing to roll it together until we cross. So now we have like a rim of tape here. Grab your scissors and starting at the edge, just make little cuts about every half an inch or so around the tape. Then you're going to fold each flap of tape down. You can hold on the inside here to kind of press it down. I'm at the point now where they're gonna overlap. So that's okay. I have still a little bit too much of an overlap here, so I'm actually gonna cut some more of this off. You want about an inch or so for an overlap. I'm gonna cut that off and fold over the last two pieces of tape. So now the bottom is completely sealed, and I kind of like press it down a little bit. This last section is going to be cutting out the little area that the handle is going to slide into. So this will vary a little bit depending on how high or low your handle is for your pot or for your cup. Here I have a little bit of space, so I'm gonna measure, I'm not gonna be exact about this, but it's about 3/4 of an inch. So let's just see here. These little flaps aren't connected yet, so I'm gonna cut down and cut on this edge just to give me a little starting point, and cut these pieces off. So I've cut out the space for where my handle is gonna go. I'll test it out. Slides in there perfectly, and it actually is the perfect height. The last thing that I wanna do is just reinforce this little bottom part here with a little bit more tape. Okay, so just get like a good width here. Fold that over into the inside, just like that. And it's all done. So this is really nice because it's reinforced on the bottom with that tape. So if you do put this on the ground or on a rock or something, it should hold up pretty well and keep your coffee nice and hot. The last test we'll do is a little weight test to see how much extra weight you're gonna have to carry to bring this luxury. 0.6 ounces. I would say that's worth it. So now you know how to make your own backpacking cozies for your coffee and for your meals. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and check out the description for more videos, tips, and tricks all about camping, hiking, and backpacking. Subscribe to my channel before you go. I'd love to see you in next week's video. Have an awesome day, and I'll catch you soon.